24, not kids, 24, 23, and 21. So I used to cook all the time, right? I was on food stamps, so I had to cook. I couldn't go out to eat, right? I had to buy the food. So today we are going to make a small, little, simple, easy meal that my dad taught me how to make a long time ago, right? Super easy. So we're gonna have sausage, you can use any kind of sausage, rice, bell peppers and onions, picante sauce, and your choice of wine, right? All right, so the wine serves several purposes. This particular wine is Stella Rose Pineapple Chili. I'm usually a red wine girl, but I am extending my palate because I get tipsy real quick on the red wine. Okay, so we're going to start out boiling our rice. We noticing in the media the war that goes on between the black man and the black woman. And in the first series of the podcast, those first 8 episodes, we did discuss the rebuilding of the nuclear family. And the nuclear family is man, woman, and child, like the African ankh represents the womb, the staff, and the children. And so I do believe that that all ties into this because we are out of balance and we are at odds with each other. And the devil is the author of confusion. And so there's a lot of content going out there. There's a lot of paid content, people with specific motives that are pushing this narrative to keep the black woman and the black man at odds. And so if we can take our pauses separately, if the man can pause and go and regroup and the women can pause and go and regroup, then we can come back to the table and begin to rebuild the nuclear family. Because the last thing we want is to be without our men. But what we are saying is that we know in the long run that us forcing this is going to be better for all of us. Because if nobody does anything and we continue this, we're going to continue to lose our families, lose our foundation. And we were never meant to raise our families alone. It was meant to be a community, the grandma, the cousins, the neighborhood. And they have forced us into a position where cousins are not a thing anymore. Remember hanging out with your cousins and your aunts and uncles? Cousins are not a thing anymore. You know, I really had to force the issue and move all the way to Virginia to make sure that my kids and my sister's kids had a relationship, because for some of my family members, I grew up across town from them and we had no relationship. I would see my cousin at football games and basketball games and I would be like, you know we're cousins, right? First cousins. So it was really important to me moving forward for our family, for our cousins and aunties and uncles to know who each other were so that we weren't alone. And so I do believe that that's one of the devices that the system does to black families. If you think about systemic racism, we hear the word systemic all the time. And that word is, the root word of that is a system, a stronghold. So there are different things. They think long term. Like we're right now in the present looking at what's happening now. But you have to understand when they create these textbooks and they create these government programs, they are aware that these things are going to take root generation after generation in their programming. So we have to use reverse psychology and understand that for us to create our families again, that we're going to have to start at a space, teach our children, teach our grandchildren, and rebuild the black family systemically, right? So of course, me being a black female myself, my first priority is the black female. So a lot of my content is really empowering the women, but it's not to be mistaken by the men because it's a process. So don't judge me, don't judge us during this process because we're going somewhere with this. We're going somewhere. We want to get ourselves healed so that we can be better wives, better girlfriends, better sisters, better cousins to you. And we want you to do the same, right? So that's what the Sacred Pause is about. That's what this Return of the Divine Feminine is about. At the end of the day, the goal is to restore the Black family, right? So I worked in corporate America for 15, 20 years, corporate sales, opening big chain hotels, sales and marketing for radio stations, TV stations, senior living things. I worked for the African American Museum. I worked for city government. And all the while, I was recording music, original music, performing, writing books, and things like that. Raising kids, having problems, lifing like everybody else. And so, my relationship, baby, I told him last night, those first few years were hell. You know, because I really had to stand my ground. He was someone who was used to getting his way with women and the women in his family. And so, man, we almost didn't make it up until this day. Things are getting better, but I really had to stand my ground. You know, I had to, I put all my eggs in one basket. I was tired by the time we had met, and I wanted some help with the kids. I wanted some help with the bills. So I did kind of release some of those things, and it put me in a position where I was completely reliant on him financially. And so I would work here and there between time to time, but my mental space was just not into the jobs anymore. I just wasn't falling for it, and my mental space was not there. And so we were still having problems, and I made the decision. I was like, look, I can't have two bosses. I can't be out there in the world working for the white man, having all these rules, no freedom, no appreciation, and then come home and deal with a man trying to train him and go through these problems. So I made a conscious decision that I was not going to work unless it was something that I really, really, really wanted to do and I was really passionate about. And my sacred pause was that. And it kept on getting extended and extended. I would work for a couple months here and not stay. And then I had to start looking around at the home that I had built. And over the years, the things that I had put in it, my records, my books, my pictures and thus, and all those things, and I've created my own museum. And so I had to start being grateful. And as time went on and he and I bumped heads and got better and went around the ring time after time, he has really grown in so many ways. And so now I'm in a space where I don't have to work and I don't feel stressed at home. But getting used to being in that place where somebody is providing for me, especially after we had so many problems, but getting to a space where I can actually be taken care of and not feel like I owe him something, not feel like I need to be working harder or contributing. Being in my feminine energy has been a process for me. I cut up the onions and the bell peppers, right? And my sausage. So this is what we have so far. We have the sausage and the onions and bell peppers, and the rice is boiling on the oven. Why y'all didn't tell me this rice was over boiling? And I don't want to hear nobody talk about, damn, she can't even make rice. Truth is, I talk longer than I know. So while I'm thinking I'm throwing that on real quick to talk to y'all, I just went on a tangent. But yeah, so restoring the divine feminine is also about restoring the Black family and us coming back together as a family, right? So rice is almost ready. Now I need to boil my sausage. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take that sausage and the bell peppers and onions, we're going to pour it over the top of the rice, and then we are going to pour, yes, picante sauce over it, and then we're done. Simple. Yeah, relationships. You know, relationships don't have to be hard, we make them hard. But I believe if we heal first, then we can nurture healthy relationships. And that is really the passion of my life, is the Black family. And I am just really determined to see what we can be when we are coming from a healed space. what we can be when we've taken the time to heal these generational wounds, when we've taken the time to do our shadow work and come back to the table as our best versions, as our healed versions, because really that's what the Word of God is all about. Jesus trying to teach us how to renew our mind and how to speak life and how to look past current circumstances and call things that are not as though they are. One of the most important messages of the Bible is that God is a creator and He made us in His image, which means He made us to create. There are certain people out there, soulless people, who have a hard time naturally creating. As Black people, we don't. We create even when we're not trying to. And that is what God commanded us to do. That's why Jesus said, these things that I do, you shall do greater things. We come from the word creator. And our mandate on this planet is to bring heaven to earth. Our creations in our mind is to manifest them out into the earth to create. And in order for us to be able to do that, we need to heal those wounds. And we need to not get caught up in the lives of those who cannot create, who steal and profit from our creations, right? Why do you think they go through such a fuss to take over Black music, to take over Black athletes? If they could create for themselves, you know, I always say this, I think about the workforce and how everything has been flipped, right? So if you have production and all these things, how Black people, how slaves built America, if you have physical beings that had to create work, wouldn't it be the ones who have a hard time naturally creating? I mean, if you have beings who need to actually perform labor, wouldn't it be the race of people who have a hard time naturally doing things that would be doing the physical labor? You had the Black people who have proven that they are natural at creating, they are natural at sports, they are natural at music, but they were the ones forced to do the physical labors and then told that they were the dummies and that the people who were in the high seats were the smart ones, which were the ones who needed you to create. Even a lot of the most famous inventions were created by Black people, but their slave owners put their names on them. Think about this. Any product that is used to make work easier, the cotton gin, the ironing board, who's doing the ironing? Who was picking the cotton? So how are these things in the names of these people, these white people? Why would they create something to make work easier when they weren't the ones doing the work? The assembly line. These are creations that the Creator God created. They took these lemons that they gave him this work and they made products to make them easier. And then they put their names on them and then went in their offices and said, we're the dummies. The tables have been turned, and if you can take a sacred pause, if you get out of the loop of the hustle, then stuff actually starts to make sense. You can actually have time to see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And you can decide for yourself. You don't need a podcaster, you don't need a book. You can sit back and use your common sense and say, wait a minute, I must be this. So when we are moving from our healed versions, we can be restored to our natural state, which is to create. And that's really what my entire life's work and purpose is about. Because me as a creator, I have bumped up against so many walls trying to be an authentic creator when you have people who want to control the messaging, people who don't want you to use music if it don't want to hear your music, or they don't want you to have a platform. They don't want your platform to go viral or be heard by a lot of people because you are teaching things other than what keeps their system in place. And so as a creator, that can be really frustrating. As an artist, that can be really frustrating. So that is part of why I do what I do, is to create a space where true, authentic creators can do as God did, which is create. But it's really hard to create when you're in a household, an environment, or a relationship, and there's hell and there's chaos and there's trauma. So no matter what we want to do, it all tracks back to peace and the sacred pause. this is what we have so far. See that steam come? And yes, this is me on my shirt. Y'all, guess what? My iron wouldn't work today. My iron wouldn't work. And I thought I had a spare iron and I don't know where it is. So, but this is me on the shirt. And this is one of my albums, All I Have to Give. It's here on YouTube if you go to my channel in the playlist. This is my album inspired by Anita Baker and Sade. So it's really on a jazz 80s tip. I'm singing really low monotone, jazzy vibes. All songs written by me. So All I Have to Give is on my page. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Now we're going to add the picante sauce, and this meal is literally finished. So we're just gonna add that picante. Give it a mix. I haven't had this in a long time. I'm excited. It's as good as I remember. All right, guys. I have to go. I have to go and pick up the first copy of The Sacred Pause. Now, if you remember, we changed the cover, so the new cover is black, white, and orange. But I got word again, because we made edits again. I want to make sure everything is right. We had to make some edits, and I got the message last night that the first copy for me to review should be available today. So we're moving along with The Sacred Pause. I can't wait for you guys to read it. If you've made it this far in this video, I am truly a believer that we are on the same frequency and that God is doing something great in our lives. And I'm so happy to have you be a part of it. So until the next time, in between time, stay sacred.